My name is Rima Žiraitis. I am the president of JAV Lietuvian-American, the Lithuanian-American Youth Association. And a little bit about us, we function as a bridge to enable Lithuanian youth to network and also maintain a connection to their Lithuanian heritage. We also facilitate in providing resources for education or resources on how to get scholarships, which is why we're doing this discussion tonight. And also different networking events, try to, bridge us all together in this, large country that we live in. I don't want to make this too long because we have a lot to cover. So I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, Jonas House, to get us started.
I'm Jonas House, Vice President of JAV LJS. Thank you to everybody for joining us, and certainly to our panelists. We are going to have two panels tonight. It's going to be a great discussion. And how we decided to come together tonight was because we've been hosting a series of webinars throughout the beginning of the summer, primarily focusing on professional development for young Lithuanians who are starting their careers, whether they're starting internships or whether they're looking to start careers in certain fields. We had really great discussions in our two previous webinars. And afterwards, we were thinking, well, what could we do for the next one? So one of our board members, Monika Ringita, said, well, why don't you do one about scholarships? And we thought, that's a great idea. We should, considering that the school year has just started. Many students are probably, if they are on campus, particularly university students, they're probably some hybrid of in-class or doing things by webinar. There's a lot of online learning for those who are still in high school. So that's why this format is particularly appropriate, but more specifically because the school year has just started. We wanted to highlight some of the different scholarship options that are there. The cost of higher education is just growing every year, but particularly for Lithuanian students or students of Lithuanian descent, we wanted to highlight some of the options that are available for you to help finance your education, to help lighten that load. But we also wanted to highlight some programs that are available for students as they try to start their careers. So we have a really great set of panelists, two actually. The first panel will focus on some of the scholarship opportunities and other programs that are available. And then our second panel will feature some of those Lithuanians who have received some of these scholarships or fellowships or participated in these programs. In between, we're going to have a video from Bring Together Lithuania, another great program. So we will feature that in between the two panelists. But that's a little too much for me. Let's get started. So we have a really great group for our first panel, and what I'd like to do is introduce them or have them introduce themselves and their organizations. So let's start first with our friends from Lietuvių fondas. Taurai, please introduce yourself.
Labą vakarą. My name is Tauras Publys. I am the president of the Lithuanian Foundation, where we basically give out over $1 million a year to various Lithuanian organizations. And last year we gave out close to 300,000, if I'm not mistaken, in scholarships. And that's how I got my start in the foundation. I was on the scholarship committee for many years, and I kind of just kept on going, kept on moving up. And it's one of the greatest things we do actually is give out that much money to, I think, to some amazing students out in the US and abroad.
Milda, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you, Jonas and Tauras. My name is Milda Davis, and I am Lietuvių fondo tarybos ir valdybos narė, chair of scholarships committee since 2017. Thank you, Tauras, for passing on the baton to me. It's been a great honor to be a part of Lietuvių fondas, especially the scholarships committee, and see what great talent we have in the Lithuanian community in young people. And like Tauras mentioned, every year we distribute a significant amount of money to scholarships for very talented students.
Achu, let's go to Vida next.
I'm sorry, Labas vakaras. I am Vida Brazaitytė, the president of the Vidūnas Youth Foundation, Vidūno jaunimo fondas. Our organization also gives scholarships, mainly to Lithuanian scouts, We also give grants to various projects here in the States, also in Lithuania. Overall, per year, we probably hand out about between $100,000 and $150,000, depending on the year and what kind of projects we are presented.
And you also have the distinction of being a former Mėlynas vadovas of Šokių šventė.
Yes, I was in Boston, 2012.
Right. Another important culture institution of ours. And let's all then turn to Laima. Ponia Laima, please introduce yourself.
Yes, labas vakaras. I am Laima Šileikytė Hood, and I am the president of Tautos Fondas, which is the Lithuanian National Foundation. Our main purpose is to service students in Lithuania, to promote education and some of the publications that focus on education. The grammar schools of Eastern Lithuania is our main focus. But we do have contracts with the Vilnius University, Vytautas, the great university in Kaunas, and we do provide scholarships, but they are basically funded by specific requests. They're small scholarships. We have a scholarship for architects, for sculpture, for journalism has been discontinued. Veterinary studies. There are various funds that fund specific students who are interested in specific fields, and they go through the universities. So, and we do have an office in Lithuania who, the person there, our administrator, reviews all the scholarships and maintains all the contacts with the universities and student applications.
Laima, thank you for mentioning that of the different programs and fields of study that Tautos Fondas supports. I think that's a good segue to the next question, and certainly probably something that some of our attendees would like to know about. What are the eligibility requirements for for each of your foundations and to apply?
Well, the university picks the students who need the scholarships. They know families who are in need, and our administrator accepts these scholarships, reviews them, meets with the students, and then gives the information to us, which our scholarship committee and reviews, and then gives the monies that we can allocate for the scholarship. Like I said, our resources are very limited. Our fund is not quite, the Tautos Fondas is barely reaching $4 million. So you can imagine that our resources are limited and scholarships are limited also, the funds that we allocate. But we try to help as much as we can. Lietuvių Fondas said that they gave $300,000 in scholarships. We gave out 20,000. So, the difference is very vast. But like I said, we try as much as we can. And but our main focus is for students in Lithuania.
Absolutely, and thank you for sharing that about certainly even though you have said that it's the numbers different between your foundation and Lietuvių Fondas, but it all goes to a great place into supporting students. Maybe we could hear from Lietuvių Fondas about eligibility requirements for students who are applying and how many students that you've supported over the past year or few years.
Sure, I can take it. and talk about Lithuanian Foundation scholarships. So the eligibility is very clearly listed, and the requirements are very clearly listed on the Lithuanian Foundation site. So if anybody is interested, you can find all the details there. Actually, we currently have the applications open for scholarships, and the deadline is October 1st by midnight. So pitch for that. If anybody is interested and currently looking, you can definitely go and research on the Lithuanian Foundation site right after the webinar. Throughout the years, we have supported quite a lot of applicants. Last year, we received 160 applications, and we distributed, let me quickly look at the statistics here that I have on my screen, 79. The year prior, we had 134 applications, and we gave out 110. So with each year, we see the increase in applications. So that is more important, again, like more important to follow the requirements and be very diligent in filling out the applications fully, making sure that no steps is skipped. If even to go deeper into the process, we use a well-known Foundation Technologies software to evaluate all the applicants. Each application is read by at least 4 people that are part of scholarships committee evaluation. And then the consensus is achieved through the final award meeting. So that is why it is so important to fill the application fully, because one question could, with that many applicants, one question or a couple of questions might mean that you won't receive a scholarship because there's not full information. And also another tip, to not wait till the last minute of the deadline to start the application process. Start as early as you can, because our application requires some documentation from the university. We award only active students that are currently enrolled. So that is very important to note as well. We don't award, for example, high school students who are planning to attend. We require active enrollment documentation. We also ask for recommendations, and that's another part of not waiting till the last minute, because sometimes you have to nudge the people you're asking for a recommendation twice or thrice to provide that. So again, do not leave the process to the last minute. And I think that's about it for now. Toras, if you have any addition.
Sure. Just really quickly, I wanted to add also that in general, we accept all applications from students who are of Lithuanian heritage, except for in bachelor degree. Bachelor degree in general, it is people who are studying in the people who are of U.S. citizenship or here legally. But masters and postdoctorate and so forth, it's open to anyone of Lithuanian descent or Lithuanian or so forth, and studying anywhere in the world. So it's all listed on our website, lithuanianfoundation.org. You click on the scholarship tab, it'll list all their requirements. And also that is the section you will find the application to fill out. And we hope to get plenty of new people asking, because it's amazing what we get. I'm always just amazed, honestly, at the quality of students out there. And in anything from the fine arts to the sciences. It's great.
Absolutely, and thank you for also discussing the options that are available for students who are not in the United States, because we've had a lot of interest from students in Lietuva who unfortunately have not been able to join us live because it's like 4 a.m. over there. But we are recording this and we will be posting the video on, so that way this can be a resource for students later on. Let me just also say that I appreciate you discussing the requirements for your scholarships, and also the numbers. You support so many students, and personally, I was one of them during law school, so I always appreciate that support. And that's again why we're hosting this webinar, so that way more students can find out about these options. So speaking of additional options that are available, Vida, you discussed your foundation's scholarships. But could you maybe go into a little bit more detail, discuss some of the eligibility requirements, the application requirements?
So our organization, because it is Scout-based, we have 6 main scholarships for Lithuanian Americans here. 2 of them have nothing to do with Scouts. One is based on a business scholarship by the Leotout family. Yes, Jimmy John's family. They give 3 $10,000 scholarships for business students, but their request is that they study in the state of Illinois. We also have a $5,000 scholarship for art students also that are based in Illinois in the name of Niola Banis, who was an artist here in Chicago. The other 4 scholarships are for Scouts. One is for $10,000. You have to be a junior and up. There are more requirements for that one than a regular scholarship, which would be $1,500. Anybody could apply for that one. We have another one that is specifically for a student studying physics, biology, engineering, chemistry. That is a $1,000 one. That is a new one that was established this year in honor of Dr. Arvydas Kudirka, who passed away 5 years ago. And then the last one would be a scholarship, Dr. Romo Remeikio, and that is a specific request also. It has to be political science, history, some study of humanities. All of our scholarships are, the deadline for the scholarships is June 30th every year. Usually we start putting out the ads for it in the month of March. All of our information is on our website, vidunojaunimofondas.org or vidunasyouthfund.org.
Puiku, ačiū. So you discussed the eligibility requirements, and Milda, you discussed the process that you go through when you're looking through these applications. But what are you looking for from your applicants? What makes an application stand out?
I can take it, the question. I think to add to what Tora said, it's amazing to see how talented our young people are, and I'm always in awe on the applications that I read. We take a lot of different aspects of us into consideration. Obviously, being a Lithuanian descent is important. That's one of the qualifying items, but really it's a combination. It's a combination of the academic achievements. It's a combination of a social involvement in the community, in the Lithuanian community. It's a package of who the person is at the same time, whether they achieved academically and they expressing, the questions that they answer about their involvement. We get a lot of, obviously, students who are highly involved in Lithuanian community and students who do not live in the Lithuanian community center, but they still find a way to include Lietuvybė into their lives, or even create a center around them. So that is very important to us.
Our colleges or universities, the students have to have high grades, but most of all, they have to be in need. The families have to have financial difficulties. They could be multi-children families or students who come from outside of Vilnius, especially farm areas. And the universities recommend the students to our office in Vilnius, and our representative there reviews the applications and recommends So that's the process that they have to be. That's for college students who are in a specific interest. Like I said, sculpture, art, sculpture, or any other fund that we have. We do have a specific scholarship that's privately funded for nurses to get their baccalaureate and also to get their master's degree. But that's in Kaunas, and that is a specific scholarship where we have contracts with the medical school there, the clinic with Kaunas. So, but it's actually students who are interested in a specific field. But they have to have high marks and they have to be in need.
Sure. Viva, how about if you can go next and discuss what you're looking for from applications?
For the most part, because we are part of a Scout organization, they have to be dues-paying members of the Lithuanian Scout Association, Lietuvių Skautų Sąjunga. We are looking for applicants who are involved in the scouting community and also are leaders in the scouting community. We also are looking for candidates that volunteer outside the Lithuanian community and also within it, not necessarily with Scouts, but within other organizations also. It depends on like the Lietaut family request that it is of Lithuanian descent and that they are candidates going to to a school, a business school here in the state of Illinois. For the $10,000 scholarship for Scouts, that one is a little bit more special. Student has to be above and beyond of what a regular student would be. Last year's winner received her bachelor's and her master's from IIT just this past spring, and she's been traveling the world doing STEM work, not just within the Lithuanian community, but outside of it. She's just a phenomenal candidate, and we're hoping that she's going to go even further. So it just depends.
From the Lithuanian Foundation side, I'd like to add a couple little things. We also have a lot of special funds that fund a lot of the scholarships, and those actually, you can find those on our website also underneath the scholarship tab. And it's a little helpful because there are funds there, like the Environmental Studies Fund, that a lot of times we have a hard time finding students who study those and apply. And if you study that, there's a good chance, if you're a good student and so forth, that you might even get a scholarship from us, because there is a special fund with money in it for environmental studies, and it's the President Adamkus Fund, actually. We also have some other funds that some of the graduate students, especially in Lithuania, who study Lithuanian history or languages, there are little funds there that sometimes we have a hard time allocating to certain students because they don't fit the actual needs, because it needs to be specifically that's that kind of study to give that kind of money out. So I always want people to go and look at our website, because you'd be surprised of some of our special funds that have some money in them that we would, we're always looking for students who study in those fields.
I have a question to Lietuvių Fondas.
Yes.
When we have students who will apply for study in Europe, for example, outside of Lithuania, could we refer them to you?
Yeah, yes, if they are masters or postdoctorate, yes.
Yes. It would be masters, not baccalaureate.
Yes, we do give. There's a good chunk that get money from us for that.
From Lithuania.
Yes.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. We're fostering collaboration between the different foundations. This is great. So Toda, thank you for mentioning that the special funds that you have, the special scholarships. It's great that one is named after President Adamkus. So for maybe a final round of questions, and again, this has been a great discussion. Vida, you discussed one of your students, a particular example of a student who has gone on or you hope to continue on in that field of study. So this final question for all of you, could you discuss maybe one or two examples of students who have received scholarships and then gone on to success, or maybe discuss your alumni network and what that is like?
I will start. I have two examples, actually. One is Daina Matis, who is a Brooklyn-based artist. She was born in LA and has been on the East Coast for a while. You just would have to look up some of her artwork. She is phenomenal. I know she's an art teacher at the New School, Parsons New School, I believe. And then another one is Siga Lapinskas. She is the new Zoo and Wildlife Nutrition Foundation resident at the Toronto Zoo. She's worked at the Lincoln Park Zoo, also at the Fort Worth Zoo and at the San Diego Zoo. And she is traveling the world. She started in equestrian studies, and it has just moved her to travel all over, doing different research projects. Both girls, awesome. We're so proud of them.
Very cool. Audrey.
I don't have specific names because I think I couldn't just pick a couple. There's so many that we supported throughout the years that went on to achieve a lot of different great things in their lives. I just know that we have so many artists, so many musicians, and also people in completely different fields in science and medical and law that achieved great degrees. And I would like to believe that they go on in their life to achieve great things in their careers. Regarding the alumni network, that is a very good idea, and we have been talking about it with our plėtros komitetas, how that would be beneficial for our students. And I think maybe if you get feedback from your students, if they would be able to utilize the alumni network and how would that be beneficial for them, we would like to hear, because we would definitely like to create something where they can connect and utilize each other's connections to further advance their careers or their goals.
I can only say that we do not have a network system, and the students who are recipients in Lithuania, we have really very little contact with them. But we have several students who have studied here. They're postgraduate, and Justinas Grigaitis is one of them, who was at Columbia University, and we did provide a for his 2 years that he was here, help for his living expenses, but he had to participate in Lithuanian activities, and he was very active with our Saturday school, teaching children and being involved. So he is one of the students that we're very proud of and still maintain contact with. So that's Justinas.
Absolutely, and we're proud of him too with JAV LJS because he's previously been a board member of ours. So thank you to our panel. You provided some great information of the funding that you provide for students. What we'd like to do next, and I see Justinas has joined us tonight. But again, thank you to the first panel for all the great information that you've provided and the great things that you do for us students. We will paste in the chat information about your websites and your applications. What we would like to do next is we're going to have a video of a conversation that I had with Camila Naraita from Bring Together Lithuania, which is a program for students to go to Lithuania and to work there. She is in Lietuva right now, so we recorded this a few days ago.
Camila, labas. Thank you so much for joining us.
Labas, Jonai. Thank you
you for the invitation.
And Camilla, you are in Lietuva now, correct?
Yes, in my summer house in Sodyba, as you can see.
Yeah. Well, it's still summer over there, still summer over here too. And it's really appropriate that we're talking to you because you are the director for Bring Together LT, which is a program for Lithuanian students or students of Lithuanian descent to go to Lithuania. So could you tell us more about the program? And actually, maybe first, why don't you tell us first about your relationship with Lietuvybė?
Yes, so thank you, Jonas. Yeah, I'm Kamila Naraita, the co-founder and director of Bring Together Lithuania program. And talking about Lietuvybė, of course, I was born in Lietuva, so my connection with Lithuania is really strong because I lived here. And thanks to my grandparents who were fighting for our freedom, and thanks to my loving parents who showed me the best of our country. During my studies, I got some scholarships to study abroad. So I spent some semesters in South Korea, and then in Slovenia, and then I came back to Lithuania. I understood that I really want to talk more about Lithuania, to show it to tourists, to foreigners, and maybe to our diaspora. That's how I came up with ideas to work with diaspora. I joined the Global Lithuanian Leaders Organization. I was a project manager there for 3 years. And then I met the Kazickas Family Foundation, and we decided to create a new program for our diaspora that is now Bring Together Lithuania.
That's excellent. So could you tell us a little bit more about Kazickas Fondas?
Yeah, so I met the Kazickas Family Foundation in 2017, and I knew that they do a lot of things in the United States for our diaspora, for our Lithuanian communities. So I think that most of you may know that they invest a lot in education, in Lithuanian schools, Lithuanian camps, and so on. And one of the part of their foundation is to invest in Lithuanians who are from the United States, and somehow we decided to create a program for diaspora to come to Lithuania and to experience it. So it's kind of like my relationship with the Kazickas Family Foundation is that they initiated the program that today I run.
That's excellent. Could you tell us more about the program, what the students do when they're a part of it? You were talking about how Kazickas Fondas makes investments, and it's really a way for students to invest in their future while also connecting with their heritage.
Yeah, so the Kazickas Family Foundation, they don't give like personal scholarships, but they invest in programs, initiatives, or schools. So the same situation is with us. So they give money for our program. And so we could run and invite the diaspora to come to Lithuania for 6 weeks summer internship program, or longer if you want to stay longer. And simultaneously, we organize activities to show modern Lithuania. So we have meetings with inspiring Lithuanians, politics, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and so on. We travel around Lithuania, and everything is covered by us. We have fun together. We invite, for example, Jurgis Didžiulis to our meeting to talk about identity, or we go and visit the president of Lithuania. We go to different museums, or just have team buildings with our community. So our goal is also to create community where all participants are in Lithuania. So they all live together. We cover the accommodation expenses during the program. So then everyone lives in one place. They can have like common kitchen. They share their stories, experiences at their internship places. So it's kind of like we create a community in Lithuania. And our goal is to kind of like educate our diaspora to show real Lithuania as it today, not the history and culture, but more about the opportunities in Lithuania, to show that you can come to Lithuania to work here, and there are a lot of opportunities, and if you want, you will always find it.
How many students, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
How many students participate every year?
Every year we have 15 to 20 students. So it mostly depends on our sponsorships.
How many applications do you get per year?
It depends, but from 40 to 50.
Okay. And then, so the next step would be, how would an interested student apply?
Yeah, so you can find our application on our webpage. So it's bringtogether.lt. So now we have the early bird registration. In order to apply, you need to prepare your motivational letter, your resume, get 2 recommendations, one from your professor or your employer, and also the official transcript of records, because some companies may ask you just to check how good you are in academic terms. And one unique thing is that you can submit your documents in Lithuanian or English, and our program is in both languages, so it's kind of like there's no need to speak Lithuanian if you want to join our internship program and discover Lithuanian.
That's great. When you're conducting your interview or your application process, are there interviews or is it just submitting a written application?
Yes, so of course you apply, and then we invite you for the first interview. And during interviews, we seek to learn more about the candidate, his or her motivation. We talk about internship opportunities. And if you're accepted for the program, then we work individually. We match you with companies, organizations, NGOs, or public sector. And then you, again, can have a few interviews with different organizations. And if you get their offer, you can choose which company or organization to work for.
Yeah, it's a very immersive program, and you've been able to place your participants in with a lot of great opportunities with companies, with government agencies. Could you maybe share one example for our audience of a student? You don't have to name the person if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Of a student who or participant who had a great experience with their placement, and maybe it led to a career afterwards.
Yeah, so this year, for example, we had one participant who started his internship in Mogo Finance company. It's well-known in the Baltic states. And after the internship, he got an offer. And of course, this year, his studies are online. That's why he decided to stay in Lithuania. He works for the company now, and he wants to live here. So it's just one of the examples. We have a lot of success stories, and we share them on our social media platforms, so you can also read a little bit more, because there are a lot of people who participated, and their career stories are really impressive.
Well, Didytis Ačiū, we will share some more information in the chat and also with our attendees afterwards about your program and the things that we discussed just in the short period of time. So just wanted to thank you again for all the great work that you do, all the great work that Bring Together Lithuania does to help students connect with their heritage, but also decide if they want to pursue certain careers in certain fields. Could be in Lietuva, could be back here in the United States or in North America. Ačiū.
Ačiū tau.
All right, so that was our conversation with Camila from Bring Together Lithuania, which is a really great program. And so the first panel, we wanted to discuss some of the scholarship options and the great programs that are available for students of Lithuanian heritage. And for the second panel, we wanted to get together some Lithuanians who have gotten scholarships or gone through some of these programs so they can pass on their lessons learned. So they're turning on their videos right now. So why don't we go to Audra first, if you could introduce yourself and discuss your connection to the Lietuva.
Yeah, for sure. So hi, everybody. We're at the final hour here, so thanks for hanging on. I grew up in Chicago, was really involved, went to Lituanistinę mokyklą, Lemonte, very involved with the Euroscoutes in Chicago, which was awesome. Shout out to all of them. And then obviously did Šokiai. And so I went to the University of Toronto for college, and afterwards I received a Fulbright scholarship and spent a year doing research in Lietuva. And that was a really exceptional opportunity. I loved it. And it was after spending a semester doing an internship at the US Embassy in Vilnius, which was also quite interesting. And now, I guess just for context, that was a while ago. And now I work in the venture capital industry.
Very cool. So let's go with Rimvydas next. Rimvydas, can you introduce yourself, talk about your connection with Lietuva, and then the different scholarships or fellowships that you've gotten?
Great. Thanks for organizing this to JAV, Lietuvių Jaunimo Sąjunga. This is a great discussion and very valuable information. I was born in Lithuania, got my bachelor's degree in economics at Vilnius University and then PhD at Connecticut University. Now I'm an associate professor at Gettysburg College teaching economics. I just returned from 1 year sabbatical at Columbia University in New York City. In my capacity for Lithuanian diaspora, I try to represent it in Lithuanian Parliament at Seimo and PLB Commission. In fact, I'm looking forward to the end of my term. We just had the last session yesterday. In terms of fellowships, I'm probably more valuable as a guide because I advise lots of my current students how to get scholarships, both prestigious and also in some cases financial aid to support their tuition expenses and so forth. Though I applied to some of the opportunities that are available at the competitive level, even at the federal government, at the United States, ended up working at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission for a few years. And even this opportunity at Columbia University was a competitive competition to apply for. So I'm happy to share my own experiences, but also the advice that I give to my own students later on.
Absolutely. We look forward to hearing more of that. Simona, let's go to you next. Looks like you are ready to record as well.
I'm always ready to record. Labas vakaras. Thank you, Jonas, for hosting this. I'm really happy to be on this panel. So I'm a professional composer and vocalist and kanklės player, musician, full-time artist at this moment in New York City, but I'm originally from Lithuania. I was born and raised in Lithuania from Ignalina. And then I finished my undergrad at Lithuanian Academy of Music and Theater, Lietuvos Muzikos ir Teatro Akademija in jazz vocals. And while I was finishing my undergrad, I was already thinking that I probably want to study jazz and contemporary music somewhere else. And Berklee College of Music has a reputation of being the best world-known contemporary music school. So I wanted to shoot for that. So I auditioned for that and I got in, and I got a quite large scholarship provided from the college. So it was called European Touring Scholarship, which covered about 75% of my tuition. That's how I got to the United States. And I've been living here for the past 8 years. I graduated from Berklee, and probably the main foundation I'm very grateful and I would like to feature tonight is Lithuanian Foundation, because they supported and granted me 3 scholarships in a year, 2013, 14, and 15, and they increased their scholarship every year. So I definitely probably could say a little bit more about that later. And I'm very grateful to Lithuanian Foundation. And as I went through college, I also received numerous scholarships from Berkeley, which were specifically for being an international student, very active student, high achievement student, and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm from artistic side, and I guess I could tell more a little bit about that part. Thank you.
And Simone is an excellent artist. She's toured around the United States, performed here in DC and Baltimore. So if you haven't gotten a chance to listen to her music, please do. Vilta, let's go to you next.
Hi, my name is Vilta. I grew up in Chicago, but my parents both are Lithuanian, and I grew up visiting Lithuania very often. So when I heard about Bring Together Lithuania as a program, which we heard Tamila speak on earlier, I thought it was a wonderful opportunity to see what networking opportunities there might be Lietuvoj, because when I grew up visiting Lithuania, I saw a lot of, the family side. I did a lot of, heritage, history sort of stuff. I also did the Lithuanian mokykla growing up, things like that. But I never really understood what was there for me now if I were to choose to explore that side. So I participated in that program last year.
Great. Lukai, did you get your microphone to work?
I hope so.
There it is.
Can you guys hear me? Ačiū Dievui. Sveiki visi, mano vardas Lukas. I am primarily here on behalf of the LIST program. I've been doing, that's one of the main programs that I've been doing a good fifth of my life when I think about it. I've done it for 4 years in a row, from the summers of 2016 to 2018. 2 years I was a high school student, and the other 2 years I was a university student studying pre-medicine. So a little bit more background on me. So my family, my parents and 2 of my 3 sisters were born and raised in Lietuva. And me and my youngest sister, we were born here in the States. Never really had the opportunity to go to Lithuanian school. The closest one was, I believe, in Atlanta, but we didn't really know any of the community there, considering we were about 5 hours away. So we just learned from our parents and our grandparents, made yearly trips. And back in, I believe, 2008, my oldest sister, Yeva Smith, she found through friends the LIST program. And at the time, I'm not sure who it was run by, but it was still sponsored by the same people. I believe it was Lietuva Fondas and the Kazickas Foundation. And I mainly found the program through them. And similar to Bring Together Lietuva, our goal is to basically immerse students in not only the professional world, not only in Lietuva, we're trying to immerse them culturally. It's a very intensive cultural program where we not only work alongside Lithuanian citizens in the field of study in which we're interested, we're also building connections with them and essentially growing out our roots and traveling all over. Last year was an incredible program because it was the inauguration of Lietuva's new president, Gintaras Nausėda. We actually got to go to the inauguration, and at the time, we also got to meet the former 2 presidents of Lithuania, Dalia Grybauskaitė and Valdas Adamkus. So that's essentially why I'm here, just to also alongside you guys introduce programs that are available, and just an overall great way to get in touch with the Lithuanian community from all over. Before the program, I only did Scout up for Atlanta Rajono Stovykla up in Boston. So we flew or drove all the way down from South Georgia, North Florida, all the way up to Boston just for 1 week of Slovikla. And then this program, I made so many new friends. I got involved with JAV LJS. I met members of PLJS, KLJS, even some people from Argentina at our last year's Sovajavimas. So yeah, I'm just like overall thankful for the opportunity that I have here tonight to speak, and I hope we have a really fun time.
Achu Lukai, and thank you for sharing more about your program, about LIS. It's a great program. I've had a lot of friends who have been a part of it as well. And thank you for sharing a little bit more about your motivation to get into that. I'd like to turn to the other panelists because in our previous webinars, for focusing more on professional development, we discussed finding your passion, finding the career that you want to pursue. Could you tell us more about how you decided to apply for your specific program or for your scholarships?
Wait, still me?
We can have anybody go first. Audra, Vilta, Simona.
You guys can start.
I'll start quickly. Or Simona, you go ahead. Go for it.
All right. I guess I'm a very big advocate for that. I feel very passionate, so I wanted to jump in right away. I really do feel that probably one of the most important thing in terms of succeeding throughout your career is really feeling aligned with your choice and feeling that you really like what you're doing, because sometimes people choose the path of compromise and then they find themselves in the dead end, and it's like it's not rewarding, and it's something what is not really brings joy and everyday happiness and enjoyment of the process.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so I feel like, well, from my perspective, because I chose the life of an artist and there's no certainty in that, and no clear path really. So it's kind of a lot of entrepreneurship and a lot of trying and a lot of failure and a lot of challenge. So, but I enjoyed every bit of it, and that's why every time when some young students approach me, and I get that a lot actually from Lithuania, that's why I'm really grateful to Janas that he's hosting that, because I always get these emails from young students, musicians from Lithuania asking for advice. And my first question is like, do you really want it? Or do you just think that it's cool or something like that? Do you really want that path? Do you really see yourself succeeding in there? Or do you really love the craft? And I think that that's probably the core. Do we really love whatever that would be? Discipline, craft, or practice we're leaning towards? Do we find meaning within our own life and within the big picture of this world? Does it serve the community? Does it serve this world? And does it make you happy? So I feel like if you answer yes to these questions, it's probably your path, and you're just going to be great at it because you love it. So I think that is very important.
I have a real world example of that. Maybe, and I don't want to take up too much time because I know we're getting to the end here, but I spent 3 years in undergrad studying something that after I did my internship at the US State Department with the Foreign Service, I just realized like, oh, wow, this is not for me. So number one, I would encourage everyone to do internships and actually get out there and like work on projects and do work. And so that internship was a huge turning point. And that's actually what exposed me to like all sorts of people outside of our Lietuvių community. I think it's really important to get a diverse perspective. And it was through that I actually found out about the Fulbright scholarship and was able to go to Lietuva in a very different circumstance than I otherwise would have. And I enrolled in a program in Vilniaus Universitetas that didn't really have very many Lietuviai. It was a mix of like all sorts of students from across Europe. And I felt very fortunate to be part of that. And I totally agree with Simona. Like, you really have to think hard about what your day-to-day is going to look like, because your really sexy image of like what this glamorous life is going to be falls apart pretty quickly. So definitely get out there and try stuff and be curious.
Yeah, I think both of those examples that were just given are really on point. I think that it's important to above all, give the energy that you want to give into you know, what you want to do with your life into the application that you're applying for. If we're going to talk specifically about scholarship applications, because even if you change what you do later on in life, that's totally fine, as long as what you're applying for, you're doing with your whole genuine heart, your own, like, you know, genuine self. For example, when I applied to Bring Together Lithuania, I applied to do an internship somewhere in film. It's what I studied in school. But I mostly applied, and although that's something I'm still passionate about and seeking to continue exploring in my career, the bulk of my reason for applying for this program was because it was the first time I saw an opportunity for someone like me who is not very sure where to even start when it comes to looking for professional work or networking. I found the program best to be for networking with other Lithuanians in Lithuania. It was very approachable in that way. Yeah, but again, I guess just to reiterate what Audra said and Simona, make sure that when you're applying to these, whatever program you choose, that you not only best know what that program is offering and how you fit into that program, but also do you fit the program that you're applying to, and does that program fit you and what you truly, really want? So that sort of side of being genuine is really important, in my opinion.
Ilta, that's a really great consideration, and thank you for sharing that. Kind of reminds me of my own personal situation. When I was a junior in college, my advisor suggested that I apply for a Truman Fellowship. I didn't get it, but I found the process worthwhile going through it. But my advisor suggested then that I apply for the New York City Urban Fellows Program, which was geared toward public service. And I had an interest in politics, had an interest in public service. So I applied for it and went through the application process, went through the interview process, which even though it was taxing, there was a lot involved with it. Had to write a personal statement, all those sorts of things. It did end up being worthwhile. So I wanted to turn to Rimvydas, who has been an advisor and guide for a lot of students. What are some of lessons learned that you've seen or that you've passed on to students who are applying and going through the process and writing their personal statements?
Yeah, thanks, Jonas. There are two types of, I would say, scholarships and fellowships. So Truman Scholarship, for example, alongside with Gates, Marshall, Fulbright, Schwartzman. There are many other very prestigious fellowships and scholarships that are really, really super competitive. Many people get it, but many people apply as well. And in many cases, the applications and preparation for them starts 2 years in advance. In fact, you have to work with your academic institution because academic institutions pick only a handful, if not a single candidate to offer for those programs. So if you don't win in your own pool within academic institution, university, you don't even have a chance to apply. Of course, all those things that you just heard, the passion about the thing that you want to do is very important, because if you're not even passionate about that, then forget it. You will not even have a good start. Once you pick something that you like and you're ambitious about it, and you have to be authentic. Tell your story, why you want to do that. Research the place where you want to go and change the world, change the field, change the issue at hand. And the more you know about the subject, the more personal story you can tell, the better. Because people will look at it and they will have thousands of applications and they need to pick only a few who will be able to move on. Now, the one suggestion that you heard in the previous panel, follow the requirements to the line. That's a very good requirement, because you can imagine if there are tens of thousands of applications, they are looking for ways to weed out to the last 1,000. So if you don't follow those rules, which sometimes seem to be like minor, not even, you know, they are not essential, but that can eliminate you from the running. Be prepared for failure. That's kind of the business of applying for applications. If you will get discouraged right away with the first rejection, you will not make it anywhere. So be ready to apply again and again. And I tell my students, apply as early as you can for some of, you know, not for some of the scholarships that tend to be a little bit less competitive and maybe more broadly available. Because the first time you get the rejection, you learn a lot about the application process. You learn a lot about the institution, about the foundation, about things that they care about. And next time you apply, you will be much more competitive. And I would say use that rule 80-20. Apply for 80% of places where you have a chance. And then use 20% of your time to be ambitious and shoot to the stars. Sometimes you will succeed. We just need the stars to line up the certain way. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and you might just be lucky to get there. So these are few points that I want to highlight for you guys.
I just wanted to add to Rimvydas, as he mentioned this phrase of saying that you have to be kind of already established in your own pool or ambitious in your own academic institution. So I also wanted to kind of add to that, saying that tapping into your own community probably is a really good start and good resource, because if you go to a scholarship or financial aid office, there will be people who have probably packages with like lists of scholarships and something specifically tailored to you. So in my case, since I went to music college, I received after one scholarship I received with my audition, after that I got international scholarship and then achievement scholarship specifically for jazz singers, and then for composition as well. So there are all these different departments. But what I wanted to mention is like a practical advice, that what I found helpful is collecting all the material or media or anything what comes, like an article or coverage or a photo of your collaborations with your peers or extracurriculum volunteering work, anything where you can get, just put everything in your own portfolio and have everything in one file. So when you go to the office and you pitch the idea or pitch yourself and you say, I did this, I collaborated this department, I initiated this project, and it's just way easier for them to decide to give you some extra scholarship within the college or within the university by seeing you being so active in your own community. So I think that's a great resource and good start before even going to a bigger foundation.
Let me just add to Simona's point. The research of the application process and about institution, about the fellowship, is also related to this alumni network that you can tap into. If you know other Lithuanians who are working at that institution, regardless whether they are professors, students, staff, talk to them before, because they will know some specific details, might be able to provide more context. And that's where I think Jaunimo Sąjunga can be very helpful, connecting potential applicants to various places where our students are, and not just students, staff and faculty as well working, because that could be an immense resource. Many institutions, they have minor or unknown scholarships and fellowships that can be very, very lucrative. Taurus mentioned in the previous panel about some of the grants that no one applies for and they just stay there. No one, the money does not get dispensed. And many institutions don't even advertise them on their main pages. So if you have someone inside the institution, that could be a very, very valuable resource.
That's a great point, Ramilai. Many universities have offices of prestigious fellowships or something like that, some similar program. So for our students, I really suggest trying to find that office within your university. Personally, for me, I went to Fordham for undergrad, and the Office of Prestigious Fellowships was very helpful to me in preparing for those applications. So Lukai, let's go to you next. You had your own personal example.
Yeah, so whenever you said competing within your own pool, similar to what Simona said, you need to find a point or like something that makes you stand out from the rest. In terms, like, say for me as an undergraduate student in pre-med, and then other people say in pre-law, pre-vet, a lot of graduate-based programs. Whenever you're applying to these schools and you have something like a personal statement and you need to present yourself in a way like, why should they accept you? What makes you stand out? Why are they investing their resources in you? So whenever, like any opportunity you can to do research, do internships, externships, something to put you above the average bar, you should go for it. Like to any students who maybe it's their third year of college and they still don't know, if you show that you want to do something within a certain amount of time and you're not winging it, like you are committed to do it, it will show. So like your pool, you need to make it, like you need to make yourself presentable and being like unique. So that's like the one little thing I wanted to add. And over time, it could change. My personal statement 2 years ago is not the personal statement as I updated last month. Like many things will happen in your life to solidify your decision in what you want to do. So yeah, just take note over the course of your career, something changes that just makes you more unique and makes you more approachable to internships, programs, scholarships. Go for it, add it in. That's why scholarships like Lietuva-Fondas, they literally have a form saying anything else you want to add that we should take into consideration. That's their tabs like that are there for a reason, to make you more, like to make you stand out. So if you like see something and you're just like, hey, I also do this, I work with local communities, here you go. Why not? It'll also show more of your character. So yeah, back to you, Jonna.
Yeah, just a quick addition to what Luca said. I think that definitely putting as much of yourself on paper as you possibly can is important, but also the bar that he might be referring to that you might want to pass, it's important to, even more important than just putting as much of yourself on paper, I think, is to make sure that you really match the goal of the organization that you're applying to or the scholarship that you're applying for, because these are organizations with real, genuine goals and that they want to accomplish too. You know, they exist for a reason. We don't just have these like scholarship and program opportunities for people of Lithuanian descent just because we're lucky. You know, well, we are lucky, but they're there also so that we could, you know, for whatever goal that the organization has. So if your goals happen to line up with that, I think another way you can stand out on an application is to really drive that home, you know, and again, just like as I mentioned earlier, being genuine is important in order to accomplish that too. That's it.
Yeah, being genuine and finding a way to stand out on your application, those are really key things. When you're able to speak about something about which you're passionate, it really helps you stand out, certainly when you're just presenting something on paper or electronically with your application. But it's also important to keep in mind that you want to stand out because the person reading your application, or could be many people, reading multiple ones every day. And I think we heard from our first panel that 4 different people read an application. So it is important to stand out. But once you've submitted your application, maybe sometimes you don't make it. And I think, Rima, you wanted to discuss that subject.
Well, I can definitely discuss that. In undergrad, I applied for a specific grant about 4 times before they finally gave it to me. More because sometimes your specific study or like what you're looking at and you want to write about or research can be too large. So that was the problem that I had with my specific application, is that for them, the scope of my Lithuanian history research was too big. So I had to whittle it down, and it took 4 iterations until the entire board was happy with what I wanted to research, more or less because they were afraid I could write a whole book, which was only supposed to be 20 pages, but it ended up being a 100-page paper anyway, which you can find at my university under the grant program that I won the grant for eventually. But failure will happen, and it really goes right back into what are you passionate about? For me and anyone who knows me, all I care about is Lithuanian history, and all I want to do is write about Lithuania and everything in everything that I do. So if that's what you're passionate about and you want to keep doing it, you will take that failure and you will try again and you'll do it again until you finally convince everyone that there is a good reason why you're so passionate about this. And eventually you'll get a successful outcome because they'll see how passionate you are about your specific thing, your niche, what you love to do and love to study. So keep that in mind. Maybe you don't get it this year, but you'll get it next year. You know, just keep trying.
Absolutely. The persistence is important. And if you don't make it the first time, try again, or maybe you'll find another program. Maybe the process the first time will lead you to another program that is right for you. Rimbila, you have some information about different scholarships that are available. Could you discuss that with our group?
You know, what we covered so far is more focused sort of on these like very known scholarships or opportunities that are available through universities or colleges or foundations. But one more source that could be really valuable, and that connects to what Audrey mentioned, take opportunity to do internships as early as possible to even figure out whether you actually are interested in that field of work. When you do internships, companies have sometimes available opportunities for you to apply for scholarships internally. And you only apply if you do internship at that company. And that could be very substantial. In some cases, the company might pay for the rest of your education and studies. So keep that in mind as a very significant source. But that means you need to apply and again, get into those companies that have those opportunities. So again, research in advance. So you might get the same experience at 2 different companies, but one company might have the internship opportunities with potential scholarships and the other will not. So apply there where you have more chances to benefit afterwards.
Achu, so another part of the application process in many situations is interviewing. We discussed some interviewing tactics, some ways to approach interviews in our previous webinars, but I wanted to ask this panel if you have any particular insights, if you have any personal experiences of how you've gone through some of your interviews for your programs.
I mean, I could kick us off. So again, I did my scholarship quite a while ago, but I am pretty active in recruiting for my firm or firms I've worked at in the past. And I think there's a few things, and a lot of folks have hit on it, so I'm not going to spend too much time, but do your homework, understand who you're talking to and what organization you're meeting with. And in particular, I would dig in to understand what the mission of the organization that you're meeting with is and how they're measured for success. So like if you think about yourself as an applicant for a scholarship or for a job, how are you going to make that organization better? how can you be somebody that Vida talks about as, you know, a successful example of their program? Because on the flip end, these programs need to look back and prove to their funding sources that they've been doing a good job in selecting good candidates. And I think the same goes for job applicants.
I'll jump in and say one thing. Practice interviews before you go to do the real interview. First, do it with your roommates, friends, someone who you trust and are comfortable with. But then try to do that with people that maybe are in that field and can give you a hard time and practice. If you don't practice, you will just, I guarantee you, you will not be as great in that interview. Because when everything kicks in, the pressures, the uncertainty, the new person that you don't know about shows up in the interview, asks uncomfortable questions that you did not expect. At least when you practice and do that with some of those uncertainties, you can navigate that better. So definitely practice.
And have your talking points. So you don't know what questions will ask, but you should know what are the 10 things that whoever you're talking to needs to know about you by the time you leave.
Absolutely. I think that, and chances are when whatever you're applying for, you're really, really preparing for, and you've got, you know, your list of questions that someone might ask you that you're ready to respond to. You've got, you know your topic really, really well, you know the organization, you know how you fit, all these things. But then above all, I think it's really important to believe in yourself and exert that confidence once you're there. I have some examples of interviews that have been very successful where I went in there and then some examples of interviews that have gone very, very poorly. And the one major difference between the very successful interviews and the very poor interviews was my own level of confidence, was my, what I thought about how I was going to do going into the room in the first place. So I think that's important to add.
And like kind of expanding on that in terms of confidence, you have to know that the person doing the interview, they already know who you are on paper. They already know all of your achievements. They know all of your relevant grades. They know all the activities you've done. What the interview is there to do is to see either in person or now it's more like on Zoom, like virtually. But the overall thing is they want to see who you are as a person. They want to see how you come off to people. First impressions do matter because this interview, well, it's essentially the next step to whatever program you're applying to. So basically just try to give them also what Audra said, show them, like tell them 10 things that they should know about you before you walk out of that room. So, yeah.
Atu, look, that's a good segue to our final round. And let me just also ask our attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A. I think we have enough time for maybe 1 or 2 questions from the Q&A. So while we wait for our attendees to maybe throw in one of those questions, I'd like to ask one final set of questions for our panelists. If you could just share maybe the best piece of advice that you got when you were pursuing your scholarships or fellowships or your programs. Audra, I think you signaled that you wanted to go, so maybe you could go for that question.
Shoot, I don't know what my answer is. Does someone else have an answer? I need some time to think about it.
The best piece of advice I can give to fellow students is just to be real. Don't try to make because if you say you're doing an interview, they know you're on paper, they will test you to see if you're actually who you say you are on paper. So just be real, and just just if you're passionate, just go for it. Like, the worst thing that could happen is you have to try again. And there's no harm in trying again, because that means you can learn from your mistakes, if there are any, and just keep going. Like, whenever Rima did her thesis, she tried so hard to get that grant, and it took her a long time, but because she was passionate about it, she succeeded. So, like, as long as you know what you want to do, and it's never too late to change if you're having any doubts, but just find a way to solidify your future in terms of like what you are passionate about and what you want to do, and just go for it. So yeah, confident.
I guess I'll jump in with a quick note about one piece of advice. As Jonas asked, I really thought about it, and like 3 million things popped in my head. But then I thought about really what pushed me through this wall, leaving from Lithuania to the United States, because it was really hard for me. Although I did get a scholarship, I had to take the whole year just for applications. So I didn't study after my undergrad in academy. I just dedicated my whole year for researching, fundraising, applying. And then I'm thinking that from today's perspective, I think that sometimes if we do our best, and even though we might not get that first, second, third, and fourth scholarship, we learn so many things. And I think I have this philosophical point of view a little bit, but if you really do everything you can possibly do, there's something will open up, although it might be not directly that grant or that scholarship or that fellowship or that internship. It will be something else will pop up. But we just have to make sure that we really, beyond passion, we really try to do everything we possibly can to make this goal happen, whatever goal is the postgraduate or studies or fellowship or job. So I think that my main piece of advice is do not try all the different avenues, but also have certain trust that if you do your part, and there will be a way, either it be a person or scholarship or organization or another solution, it will come.
And I'll also jump in too and kind of say, don't put all your scholarship eggs in one basket. There are multiple scholarships out there. Remember that if you don't get the one, there's an entire list of many, many more that you might get successful results with. So make sure that you're not kind of hinging everything on that one scholarship that's going to solve all your problems. There are lots of them. I think I probably spent a good 3 summers applying for scholarships, because there are just so many and so many different criterias, not just within the Lithuanian community, but also outside of it. And I guess because this is the theme of the evening, also perseverance, and remembering that just because you fail once doesn't mean you'll do it again. So always keep trying and be persistent, because if you love it, you'll get there.
Yeah, if you don't feel awkward at least once a week, you're not trying hard enough. I think I liked what Invita said. I like the 80-20 rule. And then I really like what they say in the startup ecosystem, which is if you're not ashamed of your minimum viable product that you first launch with, you're not pushing things out into the world soon enough. And I am someone who is a perfectionist, and I think just move forward, launch things, write applications, submit them, and then move on to the next thing, because there's so much out there, and the worst thing you could do is nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to add to all these things, because everything that you guys are saying, I'm like, yep, that, this and the other thing, felt that, I've done this. It's really important to, just like we've been saying, to just keep believing in yourself. And even if you don't know, even if you just got out of school, or you're just starting school and you don't even really know what it is you're doing in the first place, I mean, the point is to go, push yourself, and and really keep believing in yourself. And again, try and try again. Talk to people. Don't be shy. Try to network, because really, why do we apply for scholarships and grants as students and young professionals in the first place? It's to find a start somewhere. It's to kickstart what the rest of our lives, what we want the rest of our lives to look like. So in the end, remember that this isn't something that your parents are asking you to do. This isn't something that your school is expecting of you. This is something for yourself that you're doing. So as long as you hold on to that and keep pushing forward with that in mind, you'll be fine.
My advice to everyone would be to talk to someone who got a grant or fellowship or scholarship in that area. But the real call goes not to you who will try your best to get those, but to those who got it, and to those who give it. We as Lithuanians have to be very supportive of each other so we succeed in more of these opportunities. And we should remember, whatever we achieved, we need to make sure that those who go after us, that they reach higher and manage to clear those hurdles. If we do that, we will succeed as community, global Lithuania, and as professionals in any field that we are. So that's my call to all of us. And of course, those who know me, if you do not participate in Lithuanian elections, if you have a citizenship, then you have no chance of getting any of these. So do that, register, vote in Lithuanian elections if you can. Because if I interview you, I will ask you about that.
That is a perfect way to wrap up our conversation, Artur and Vilai. Leave it to a professor to put in some great points there to wrap up our discussion. Let me also just say we encourage everyone who is eligible to vote in the Lithuanian elections, as Rimvydas just said, but also in the US elections this November. We encourage everyone to vote. So thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you to our panelists, both the second panel and the first panel, for discussing your insights, and certainly for the first panel for all the great work that you do in providing these scholarships. I'll hand it back to Rima to wrap us up.
All right, everyone. A big thank you to our panelists, everyone, for joining us this evening and giving us all your sage wisdom as well as valuable information about scholarship programs and within the community. Also to our attendees, especially the ones who hang on always when we go over time. We appreciate your time, and we also appreciate that you've joined us for all these important discussions. We will have this recorded and up on YouTube within the next few days. We do know that there are some scholarship deadlines coming up, so we will get those posted, the videos posted ASAP, as well as the links to the various scholarships that are available to you that we've discussed tonight. Again, if you have any questions, you can always contact us via our Facebook page or email, or me if you have me on Facebook, or Jonas or Lukas, who's also on our board, and we'll be happy to answer all of your questions. All right.
Ačiū.